We are now 40 days into the war in Iran, and fractures are already emerging in the 2-week ceasefire that Trump announced just last night. Here's the thing. No one seems to know exactly what the ceasefire is or whether it's actually in effect. So just try to follow all of this. Take a deep breath. This morning, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, well, he declared victory and talked about Operation Epic Fury, like the whole thing in Iran, in the past tense, like it's over. It came as Iran accused the U.S. of already violating key points of the ceasefire, citing Israeli strikes in Lebanon that happened hours after it was announced. President Trump told PBS that Lebanon was not included in the deal, quote, because of Hezbollah. But Iran's foreign minister said the ceasefire terms did, in fact, include Lebanon. And state media reported that in response, Iran said, quote, fully closed the Strait of Hormuz again. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt called that reporting false and said they have seen an uptick in traffic in the strait. But I'm not sure where they saw that, because new reports suggest that Iran is only tightening its grip on the strait by limiting the number of vessels allowed to pass and imposing steep tolls on any of them that do. And I want to remind our audience, the Wall Street Journal reports that before the war, more than 100 ships would pass through the strait every single day. But the New York Times reports that just 4 ships were allowed to pass today, which is the fewest so far this month. And while all of that happens, the White House also announced that Vice President J.D. Vance will lead a new negotiating team for talks this weekend that includes Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. All right, let's bring in our nightcap. It's an excellent one. David Rohde is here, MS Now senior national security reporter. He has been doing phenomenal work over the last 40 days. Gillian Tett, a columnist and member of the Financial Times editorial board. Tim O'Brien is back, Bloomberg Opinion senior executive editor and Trump biographer. And Richard Stengel, former Undersecretary of State for Public Diplomacy and Public Affairs. He's also a former managing editor for Time Magazine and an MS Now contributor. Mr. Rohde, you know we're going to you first. You follow all of this. Where do things stand?
The importance of the Strait of Hormuz is more clear than ever. And this is why the failure of the administration to plan for Iran to take over the Strait of Hormuz, and right now the ceasefire all rests on resolving the Strait of Hormuz. And so it's extraordinary that, A, the administration didn't plan for this. B, it shows that they should have had more allies to be involved in this. We don't have enough ships of our own to stop the Iranians from controlling the strait. So we could talk more about it in more detail, but that is the entire key to the war and the key to the ceasefire.
According to the Wall Street Journal, Israel was informed late about the ceasefire, and they were not happy, particularly about the planned inclusion of Lebanon in the agreement. This whole thing is a joint military operation, or it's supposed to be. Given that, why wouldn't Israel be part of the conversation?
It's a good question, and Israel can't be happy about what's happening. You know, the problem from the beginning is that our goals and Israel's goals weren't ever perfectly aligned. We have no interest in bombing Lebanon. Israel has a major interest in doing that. We all read the New York Times Maggie Haberman piece about Netanyahu coming here to persuade Donald Trump to do this, and everybody
it worked.
And everybody else was going, yeah, we've seen this show before, except Donald Trump, who bought into it. So the fact that, you know, Israel has been the little brother in this, but it's the little brother that's guiding the older brother. And in this case, Trump didn't bother telling Israel because he, you know, if someone had handed him terms of this on a napkin that they scribbled at a bar, he would go, yes, these are good terms for the agreement. He was so desperate to have something. He was so desperate he didn't even bother to inform the Israelis.
And you know what's funny? I spoke to the president 3 weeks ago when I said, are our interests and Israel's interests aligned in this war? He said, yes, 100%. We're in lockstep. Clearly, we're not. Can you just explain to us, David, how is it even possible that what Iran thinks the terms of the ceasefire are and what we think the terms of the ceasefire are not aligned? Like, how could this be?
This is what it's like to, in a way, negotiate with the Iranians, and then you have a White House that's also sort of doing what it wants also. So the 3 big differences today is that the Speaker of the Iranian parliament are saying there shouldn't be any attacks on Lebanon, and that this was part of their agreement. They're accusing the U.S. of sending a drone into their airspace. And then most importantly, the Iranians are saying, we still have the right to enrich uranium. So it's stunning. I agree that Trump signed off on this thing because he was desperate. But these are 3, not the drone so much, but Lebanon and the enrichment. And then again, the Strait of Hormuz are very dangerous things in terms of the salt.